I'm here online with Adam Button. He's a currency analyst and editor at Forex Live. That's forexlive.com. And he is also actually the Forex Person of the Year, FX Street Forex Person of the Year for the year 2014. And I'm really very honored to be online here with you, Adam. And Adam, I actually have some questions for you, and these questions were actually questions that are coming directly from people from the Forex circles, and they actually directed this question specifically for you. So I think your answers here will mean a lot to them. So we'll just go straight ahead to the first question, which reads something like this: what is the biggest strength Forex trader should have, Adam?
Well, first of all, Jason, thank you so much for having me on and the questions and the very kind words. It's always a great chance to talk about trading, and I enjoyed it very much. So I'm happy to take the time and talk about different angles on education and what's happening in the market now and everything else. And it's a very good question to start on, and there's plenty that we could say about the strengths a trader should have. And the biggest strength a trader would want to have, and there are many. Obviously, I find that the trading and becoming a good trader is something you develop over many years. And I always tell traders that I work with or that I know that the most important thing is to stay in the game, not to fall into any of the largest pitfalls and quit trading by taking too much risk. Or to trade very poorly for a stretch of time, and I just think that means that great trades come up once in a while. If you stay in the game, you stay patient. When you miss a trade, if you can relax and move on to the next one, and not make a bad decision based on sort of a revenge trade, then eventually the opportunities will come, and you'll be ready, and you'll have the clear head to take advantage. So that's one piece of advice, but I wouldn't say that's the biggest strength the trader should have. For me, and I go back to this story a lot because it reminds me of my grandfather, and he said he's a great fisherman, and we fish a lot back where I'm from in northern Canada. And he would say, Adam, the key to catching fish is confidence when you're a fisherman. And that to me, it didn't make sense. I mean, we would fish in the same boat in the same water, and it would really have nothing to do with confidence in my mind. But over time, I found it to be true that if you were confident you were going to catch fish, you were confident in your equipment, confident in your technique, that you would catch more fish than the next guy in the boat with you. And that, to me, is the biggest strength, and everything comes from that. You can argue that discipline is important, or the different kinds of attitudes and patience and intelligence and everything else is important. But for me, it comes from confidence, and along the same lines, it is confidence in your equipment, in your broker, for instance. You have to have confidence that it's a solid broker, that your money's safe, that that the quotes are legit, and your stops will get filled. You have to have confidence in your technique, and to do that, you can't be an emotional trader who trades on feelings. So definitely developing that confidence, and that comes from using a system, from using a method, from planning out trades. From accepting risk in trades, knowing that even a great trade idea that will ultimately prove right might get stopped out 20% of the time because of the ebb and flow in the market, or a small mistake and where the levels were. And if you allow that to shake your confidence and take you away from the market in a larger sense, then you will ultimately lose money as a trader, and it will erode your confidence. So I would just say that.
I realize something about trading. You know, when you were talking, you mentioned not being an emotional trader. My question here is, do you actually mean that, for instance, if I'm trading today and I make lots of pips, I make lots of pips, and I have no reason to be excited. Is that what you mean? I should have a neutral feeling about the fact that I made about 100 pips today, in the
Yeah,
same way that I should have a neutral feeling when I lose 50 pips today.
for me, I mean, to some extent, yes, but also no. I think you're going to be excited. There's no way around it, and the technique is managing the emotions. So knowing, okay, I'm excited right now. So what can go wrong if I'm very excited? Maybe I'll trade too large. Maybe I'll be a bit more impulsive, a bit overconfident, and then you have to have a secondary track in your mind that says, okay, this is the mistake you might make today because this is how you're feeling today. So how do you guard against that? Maybe you take a little bit more time when you're deciding to make a trade. Maybe you trade a little bit smaller because you're trying not to be overconfident. But to try to eliminate emotion altogether, I think is a very, very difficult quest. And yeah, to some extent, as successes grow, it will feel that way. And that's a good place to be. But I think it's also a little bit unrealistic to think that you could approach every trade in exactly the same mindset or wake up every day in the same mood. It's more about managing it.
Okay, that's very interesting, and I'm trying to think of the few moments that I've actually really won big numbers. If we are talking about pips, big numbers of pips, and I was really really excited. But then when I get really excited when I'm trading, and I start to get really excited from the fact that I've won some pips, I stop trading. I just call it a day, and then I wait till the next day and then start all over again to try to repeat what I did yesterday.
And that's a great method right there. That is one way of managing it. Close out the trade, take it, you go to bed, and then you wake up a little bit more confident the next day.
Exactly.
Rather than pushing your luck. And if you spoil a good trade by over trading, you'll wake up the next day and you'll be in a bad mood. So that's just a great way to build confidence and knowing, sure, you're going to leave pips on the table. You might have been better off holding that trade a little bit longer and made another 30 pips, and it's better just to get over that and move on. Take what you've got. And, I often say to myself, well, I'll leave the last 10% or the last 30% of the trade for the other guy, and it's fine. I made money, and then you can just let it go and manage that feeling of missing out, and be ready to make the next trade and start every day with as clean of a slate as you can, and just feeling a little bit more confident every day.
Okay. So to sum up, the biggest strengths of a good trader, of a forex trader, if I remember right, you mentioned things about not being an emotional trader and actually incorporating some discipline into the trading style, and also having confidence. These three things are actually very important, I think.
Yeah, and building all those. I mean, having confidence is a tough one to say. I think it's more building confidence and knowing how to rebuild it when there's a setback. And along with that, just a technique. And I'm not going to say what with my technique is the right one for you, but it has to be repeatable and not necessarily emotional. Or I don't think it should be emotional. And I do believe that 95% of the technique in markets is laid out, and you just have to learn it. It's like anything in sports or anything. There's 5% of creativity within the technique, and 95% needs to be what's done by people before. And it means not adding to losing trades. All the rules, the rules that you see time and time again repeated, are there for a reason. Following the trend, cutting your losses and whatnot. So I really believe in all that.
Okay, so we'll try to move on to the next question, but then before that, I would like to ask a personal question. I would be grateful if you would be able to tell me roughly how long you've been in the forex market.
Yeah, it's been about 8 years now. In the every day in front of the trading terminals, and
That's
before that in kind of other ways with the news and other markets. But yeah, that's the
that's
number.
8 solid years.
8 great years.
Okay, okay. So I think 8 years is more than enough to pose this question. And the question is, what is the most successful trading strategy you've come across? And what triggers these strategies? How are the entries and exits made? What's the
Uh,
best? The best,
yeah,
not maybe not the best, but the most successful strategy you've come
the
across.
best traders I know are.
Actually, not the best because I don't believe in this thing that people call best trading strategy or something like they are good ones and they are very very good ones, but I don't think there's a best one. So I think I let's put it this way: the most successful trading strategy you've come across, and what triggers its entry and exit points.
Yeah, the best traders I know are news traders. They trade news, and I know that's not easy for everyone. Technical analysis is a little bit more clear, a little bit more repeatable, and less to interpret. But the people I know are just very, very fast with news and interpreting headlines and knowing what it means, knowing when to get in and when to get out. So entries and exits are made around news events, and I just to describe it a little bit more, it comes from planning, anticipating. Okay, if non-farm payrolls is this, we're going to do this, and we're going to monitor this other part of the report, and we're going to try to get in at this level. And if it works, it goes according to plan. And if it doesn't work, they get out and wait for the next release, or just patiently wait for news and try to get in on it as quickly as possible and hold on as long as possible. If you go back to something, some of it is better for people with access to the best tools and the quickest news. But it's more and more accessible and cheaper for retail traders, but also larger events. The Bank of Japan on October 31st, introducing another round of QE. Sure, the first move was 150 pips, maybe in minutes, but after that, it was another 500 over the coming weeks. So it doesn't necessarily need to be high frequency, but I often believe that people underappreciate how important certain news events can be and how long lasting they'll be, and that fits in as well with technicals. I mean, the ECB right now is launching QE, and 110 broke, and there was nothing magical about it, but just selling new lows in a great trend is it fits in with the technical, the fundamental picture, and it's also a fundamental trade. So when the two line up, I think you have the makings of a great trade that where you just need to hang on for dear life.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much for the answer to this particular question because it means a lot to people, and I think this question was one of the questions that lots of people were more interested in. So I think I must say I'm very grateful for that answer. And I would like to go to the third question now, and it's about scalping. I personally do scalp a lot. And I think that your answer would also mean personally a lot to me. So I would like to hear what you have to say on this. If you had to scalp on a 5 minute time frame, how would you do that?
Yeah, I think you just wait for the big levels, I think you keep the technical analysis very simple. You wait for a break of a major level, and you take a little bit, and you have to put in the time in a strategy like that as well. But whether it's breaking a 200-day moving average or an old high or a major trend line, and not trying to force those trades necessarily, just drawing the lines on your chart and waiting and sticking generally to the dollar pairs or to the major crosses and taking those 30 pip moves on those breaks, 25, 30 pips here and there. On that, in a scalping on a 5, if you wanted to overtrade more of that, I would say to just go with the trend, stay away from news, and just try to pick up the tail end of a trend and stick with the momentum. Beyond that, that's probably my best advice on that question.
But all this on a 5 minutes time frame? Yeah.
Well, I think no. I mean, if you're on a strict 5 minute chart, I really don't have any advice beyond waiting for longer trends,
Mm-hmm.
longer term levels to hit. I guess for my best advice for scalping on a 5 minute time frame is to watch the clock very closely. Avoid the fixes or trade the fixes, but know what time it is. Watch out for economic data. Plan around it. Plan around the quiet times of the day, and know that at this time of day, market's more likely to consolidate after a larger move than extend a move. So, and try to incorporate that kind of bias into your trading.
Okay, and what kind of indicators do you use when you're scalping?
Yeah, I've used I feel as though technical analysis is far overcomplicated, and we use it all. I'm going to have all the lines on the chart, but I'll keep the 100-hour moving average, 200-hour moving average, 200-day, 100-day, 55-day. In a trending market, I'll avoid something like oscillators or oversold, overbought indicators. I just old highs and lows for the most part, Fibonacci retracements.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And that's about the extent of it.
Okay. This is Jason Dykes from 24 Forex Secrets, talking with Adam Button, who leads the team at forexlive.com. And Adam, I would want to ask you, do you trade personally now, currently?
Yes, absolutely.
And do you capitalize on having a front seat to the news?
Yes, that's mostly what I do in terms of trading. And I really believe in knowing every tidbit of news, staying on top of every headline, reading every story. And I would say that 99.5% of traders don't read to the bottom of the story. And I think there's an edge in that. And you have to love it. You have to be interested in it. I think to do it, I don't think you can force yourself into that sort of mindset. But that's how I'm a little different, and that's how I trade. I trade based on headlines, and I truly believe that I can be faster, not necessarily to hit the button on something that everyone's watching, but when unexpected news hits, knowing what it means, knowing if this is something that you buy and hold on to, or you buy and you take 20 pips and leave it to the other guys to sort through. That's exactly how I trade.
Okay. Thank you very much. I've come to realize that lots of pro traders depend more actually on trading the news than on technical analysis.
Yeah, and listen, I don't begrudge that. Technicals, algos, and I use that as well, and I really generally need them to line up. I might see a euro positive headline right now, and I would be very hesitant to jump on it because the trend is lower and the technicals aren't great. I'm more likely to use it to get back on the trend. I don't judge. I totally believe technical analysis is a huge part, and they're great traders. And I just don't believe I have an edge in trading technically.
Okay. Thank you very much, Adam. And I also wanted to know if of course, you have a risk management plan. I know you do have, because every serious trader has it. And I would like to ask if you don't mind sharing with us what's involved in your risk management plan. Then you can go ahead and tell us something about your risk management plan.
Yeah, I believe that many new traders trade too large. If you can't sleep comfortably on a trade, if you're even thinking about a trade after you made it, for the most part, it's too large. And I think you need to extend out your time frame toward rather than doubling your account in 3 months. That you need to take your time and build it up and have slow, repeatable processes, and occasional large trades as well when things line up perfectly. But the number one risk management tool would be not adding to a losing trade. I think if you don't trade too large and you have a stop, and I don't necessarily think you need to have hard stops, especially if you're like me and you're trading around news and events, but you need to have some kind of mental stop, some kind of level you're comfortable with. But adding to a losing trade to me is how you blow up accounts, and that is the number one risk management. And not to say that you can't add to a trade that's negative, but that has to be part of the plan. If you go in and say, okay, I'm going to pick up a little here, but I expect to buy more if it falls to this level. If it's down 40 pips, I want to buy more, as long as it's before this certain time. And that to me is essential. Not adding to that losing trade. And the other one would be having a time factor in your trade. You might think, okay, I want this to happen. I think this is going to happen for this technical reason, for instance, or fundamental reason. And if it doesn't happen within a day or two, if that's your time frame, then you have to get out, because that was part of the plan and part of the trade. And you say, you might be a little bit underwater, a little bit in the money, but you had a vision for how this trade was going to go, and it just didn't happen that way. And if you go beyond that, if that event passes or if that time passes, then that pattern isn't what you thought it was. And it's often better just to get out rather than leave the trade on and just hope that it kind of goes in your direction.
Thank you very much, Adam. And there's one more question that I would want to add to this. I wanted to ask, because we talked about trading the news, that's mostly fundamental analysis, and I'm sure you've heard about this technical versus fundamental analysis debates. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk a little bit longer. I know you have a few more questions. Yeah, I'll try to be a little bit more brief. I don't have, for me, I don't. In my mind, there is no debate. I mean, you cannot get away from either one if you don't know the levels, at least at a basic level, at least a basic understanding of the levels and what they mean. I just don't really understand how you could even trade fundamentals alone without knowing the levels. You have to pick a stop loss or a target when you go into a trade. So that is technical analysis. And I think it's just foolish not to follow the headlines or the news in any sense. If you want to trade purely for technical reasons, that's fine. But I don't believe the technicals anticipate what the news will be, what the headlines will be. And if those headlines, are significant enough and change the story enough, then you need to respect those.
Thank you very much, Adam. And let's go on to something like trading commodities. And there's this question that someone wanted an answer to from you, and he's asking what you think about crude oil in the long term.
Yep, I'm bearish. I'm not going to hedge on that either. I'm outright bearish, and I'm short. I wrote yesterday at length about crude and why traders should be short, and it's off to a good start, that trade. I think that the crude chart, just to touch on the technicals first, looks a lot like the euro chart did 2 weeks ago. It's not really much of a bounce after a long fall, and I think it looks ripe to the downside again. I expected 3 months ago to see a large drop in production. By this point, I expected to see companies cutting back dramatically. Instead, they've cut back modestly. OPEC is continuing to pump. The production is rising, and demand is especially strong, maybe a tad stronger than we might expected. And I think this supply is filling up storage, and it will eventually be dumped on the market. And there just hasn't been the pain in the market that you would have anticipated down at these levels. And I think crude goes at least $10 lower from here.
Okay, so for you, you're bearish on crude oil, yeah?
Extremely, and presently bearish. And I do believe crude is still a sell, and especially a sell right now.
And how long do you plan on being bearish? Do you expect to go bullish? Do you expect any what would you expect to change your mind to go bearish?
Yeah, I mean,
To go bullish.
the
Sorry.
way I trade is I watch the headlines, I watch the news. I mean, if there's war in the Middle East, then you can't be bearish anymore. But on the supply demand scale, all encompassing everything that we know, I don't see any real headlines, short of something major geopolitically that could throw me off that trade. So it just becomes about levels and starting to see companies shut down, starting to see some real pain among oil producers. And I don't think we're going to get that above 40. So I think crude WTI at least needs to go into the 30s, and Brent probably down into the mid to low 40s for starters. And then I think you evaluate over time. I wouldn't want to predict any more than that.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Adam. And would you mind sharing with us some tips on trading the news? Actually, what would be your say best top 3 tips to share
for
with
someone
us?
out there who isn't doing a lot of it right now, you can't try to trade news on everything. If you want to corner one little part of the market and focus on that, whether the Eurozone's a tough one because there are so many countries in the Eurozone, but find one country, one part of the world, one currency that you might be interested in, and try to learn everything about that and the headlines that move it. That's a tip I'd share on news trading. Other than that, is you don't think you can be faster than the market. You're not going to get in trades faster than algos, and if that means that you lose out on the first 50 pips on a headline, that's fine. The move beyond that is really what matters anyway.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are talking with Adam Batten from forexlive.com, and this is 24forexsecrets.com. And talking about forexlive.com, Adam, I wanted to ask, I understand you are the leader of the team at forexlive.com, is that right?
Yep. Well, we own the site, so definitely lead it as well.
Okay. And I wanted to ask, what are your future plans for Forex Live? Are you considering starting some firm or something of that sort?
Yes, I mean we're in intense. We launched our site about a month ago, and right now we're in a very intensive development phase. We've worked to make it much faster, for starters, and we're very focused on speed and getting analysis and news out there as quickly as we can, and having a site that loads as quickly as possible. And there's some functionality we want to add beyond that, and that's going to be coming even in the next couple days. A forum is something that we are working on. We actually are working a bit on our comment system right now to try to make that a little bit more transparent, to keep the conversation going. Just as the moderators ourselves, we find it very valuable. I believe there's a tremendous advantage in collaborative trading, where people are out there pointing out different levels. There's nobody who can stay on top 24 hours a day of a market, of all the levels, of all the pairs, of all the different angles. So being amongst a savvy group of traders is where we like to be, and we're very lucky that our readers are professional traders by and large, and that adds to the atmosphere. And we want to build something where that can be more easily shared and read, and so that will elevate the discussion and make it easier to follow for someone who might be new to trading. So I'm happy to report that that's coming. Probably not in the next month or two, but beyond that, yes.
Okay, so let's say in the next 90 days, we should expect to see a forum.
I don't make any promises on technology. I'd rather forecast oil or something than that. Technology can be very frustrating, time-consuming, and plagued with delays.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyway, at least we know that you guys are thinking about putting up something like this for users to use, because I think it would be a tremendous help when there's this whole network of Forex traders helping each other and learning from each other. And Forex Live is a good place to have something like this.
Thanks very much. And the same as mobile. We're working on a mobile app as well. But we had one before, and some of the code was lost, and we have to rebuild it. So again, it takes time. We're working on making a great mobile site right now, and then we'll get to that. Unfortunately, we're a very small operation, and resources are limited, and even if they weren't, it takes time, and we want to do it right. So it's coming, and we're just hoping to make it better and better.
Okay, but then you've mentioned two things here. There's a mobile app.
There's been a mobile app for about 4 years. It was an iPhone app. And it's just we couldn't support it any longer, so we had to pull it, and we need to start fresh.
Okay, so there will be a new mobile app on iOS, and I presume on Android as well.
Yeah, hopefully on everything.
Okay. So I think that's great news. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thanks so much for the chat, and we'll be back on Forex Live here, and it's a pretty live market right now, and it's exciting to be a part of, and always great to talk.
Okay. So thank you very much, Adam, for your time, and I'm really very grateful that you took time off your busy schedule to talk with 24forexsecrets.com, and I will actually have to leave you now because I can hear some background discussions. I'm not really sure.
It's a trading floor here, so different things come up.
Okay, that makes sense now. So I will leave you now, and I will once again say on behalf of the listeners, the readers, and all the people who might be interested in this interview, I would want to say a very big thank you for your time, and I'm sure they will learn a lot from this recording.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, and have a fruitful day.
You too.
Okay, bye. Thanks. Bye-bye.